Hello, MJ friends. Going to do a bit of an opinionated video today. As we know, we've been preparing for the New York Stock Exchange first ever marijuana IPO, IIPR, that is trading tomorrow. We don't know what time it will begin trading, but it will likely be the later part of the morning, and we'll be covering that live. Very excited about that. It is certainly history in the making. But the video that I made, the research video, lots of good info there. I made that over a week ago, and things change. It's up to us to adapt to a changing market to best be able to pivot, change positions, and react in order to profit. So these are my thoughts. And again, I'm just one person. It's my opinion, and I've been wrong plenty of times. So if this, if you still have firm convictions on your game plan, by all means, stick to it. But there's a new IPO in town, and it's CME on the Canadian exchange. And I'm going to be going over some new risks that have come up for IIPR and some risks that are still there, present from beforehand, and comparing that to the opportunity that is presenting itself later on. So CME IPO is either November 28th or November 30th. A couple sources have said that it's November 30th directly from the company, but I have not confirmed that. Either way, we can assume the end of November, and again, we know IIPR is tomorrow. So first off, preparation for an IPO, you want to have all these questions answered. You don't want to be flying blind as you head into the day and making decisions on the fly. I know how much money I am playing with. I know if I am buying all at once or in multiple chunks. I know if I am buying at the open or waiting for things to settle down. I know the most I want to lose on this trade is X, so after my entry, I will put a stop loss there to ensure it. I have a sell target of X, and I would like to hold for X amount of time. All of these questions need to be known before ever placing a trade. So let's get into IIPR. Potential sentiment change. Certainly not as excited as I was a week ago for a number of reasons. First off, rising interest rates, which we're expecting the Fed to raise rates, generally bearish for REITs, and that's because money will shift out of those REITs back into some safer instruments. And although there are certain REIT sectors that this can still perform well in the raising rates environment, it's just something we need to be aware of. That's not new, but it is an overlying risk that we need to be aware of. This is the big one. This is the big change. Potential Attorney General Sessions, the senator, is very, very MJ unfriendly. He's pretty much the worst case scenario for an attorney general that Trump could have picked. So look at the reaction. GWPH is the sector leader right now for marijuana, as it's one of the only legitimate names that you can trade. Look at the 3 days factoring in the news to Sessions. We were right at the brink of all-time highs, increasing bear volume, full-on dump. We went from $134 down to $116. Now, we did have a nice bullish reversal candlestick today. Maybe that news has been digested by now in this stock, but it's an overhang on the sector. It has a lot of people nervous. It has a lot of medical marijuana advocates nervous. He could make the new legislation in the states that we just saw pass. He could throw a wrench in that process, make things more difficult. Worst case scenario is he goes after the entire legal and medical industry. He would be met with huge resistance, but it is a possibility. We need to be prepared for everything. He has made quotes saying good people don't smoke marijuana. He's all for the drug war. So it's really worst case scenario in terms of who Attorney General is. He's not voted in yet, but it is entirely possible that that could be the future. So this is going to weigh on the sector, and I do believe that it is going to weigh on IIPR as well. So that's a new development since the video. We also had a development. One of our members called the underwriters for this IPO, and he was offered as little as 500 to 1,000 shares at the $20 IPO price. That tells me that the shares are not oversubscribed, and what that would mean is if the shares were oversubscribed, they would be really hard to get, and that's what occurs when you see an IPO open above the price and you see demand for shares far outweighing supply. So the fact that he would have been able to buy at $20 is a little bit of a red flag. That tells me shares are available. So that alone would have me no longer buying right at the open. That would have me waiting for at least 15 minutes to settle, see how things are trading, see if we see a pullback. But definitely more cautious for these two reasons alone. Also, the lack of media coverage. We are getting some articles, but man, oh man, why has CNBC not been talking about this? It would be the biggest ratings increase that they could see this week. And the amount of interest that they would be able to drum up just by saying first ever. If they were to hype up first ever NYSE MJ IPO, they would see a big spike in viewership. And I'm wondering why they're not doing that. And maybe they'll do it a few days. I guess best case scenario at this point would be they would hype it up a few days after the IPO and cause a run once we already have some shares. But again, the lack of media coverage, the new potential attorney general, and this development, seeing shares still available at $20, all have me a lot more cautious than I was. I would still be looking to have my original game plan for this IPO, but there is another new development, and that's the new kid on the block, EMC. Now, why do I care about a $2 EMC Canadian IPO? Well, number one, the Canadian market has been absolutely exploding, and it's unlike anything that the Canadian market has seen before. And I can tell you just from the videos that I've been making videos now. I've made probably 4,000 videos over the past, year and a half. And the most views I got on videos were for gold videos. And it was a really big night would be 900 views on a gold video. And that was by far the biggest viewership in terms of videos that I saw. I started making marijuana Canadian videos, and I'm getting now 2,000, 2,500 views in a night. So the demand is very, very large for these Canadian names. Here are some charts, and we see this is the sector leader, CGC, Canopy Growth. It's a licensed producer in Canada, and we've seen a move from $4 up to $18 in under 2 months. So huge gains, and people are rolling in the cash. I'm getting messages from people, I just made multiple 100%. I don't know what I'm doing. I've never traded stocks before. And it's essentially how I started trading stocks 6 years ago in the marijuana US sector. But what it tells me is a lot of things. Let's pull this chart back up. So not only are there huge profits being made, we're seeing consolidation and we're seeing a pullback. That tells me profit is being locked in. So there's a lot of accounts now that are going to be flush with cash, and they're going to be looking for the next play. And CGC, like I said, it's one of the 30 licensed producers in Canada. This IPO EMC is another one of those 30. And they are valued much less in terms of market cap. I think they were valued less than $25 million before this IPO. So the market cap is much less, $2 stock. And that the reason that the $2 stock is important as well is these people that have been playing these low cap stocks. Let's look at some other ones here. And there's a whole bunch. You could go through a list of 6 of these charts showing hundreds of percent gains, but they're used to these $2, $3, $5 stocks. And this new IPO is going to be so very attractive to have the same group name as CGC, the sector leader, with an IPO, never before bought shares. I think this is going to be a huge IPO. I think it's going to be an easy, I think it's an easy 50%. And I think that's going to occur in the first couple days. So I think money is going to come out of these names. I think we're going to see money pour into this IPO. And it's the legal environment. We have Canada ready to go legally. The environment for Canada is so much more friendly for these companies than it is in the US. Now we have Attorney General Sessions, who has a terrible history in terms of his views on marijuana. We have to deal with that. That's not let's catch my breath here. That is not a concern in Canada whatsoever. So I like the operating environment. I like the company. I like the price point. And I like what I've been seeing in the sector and all the interest that's been in the videos. I make a US MJ video, I'll get 600 views overnight, and I make a Canada one, and I'll get 4 times that easy. So that's all my sentiment. And again, very opinionated, and I'm aware of that. So legal environment in Canada sector booming. Consolidation means profit taking. Cash is being freed up. Huge interest, and I will do a research video specifically on EMC. As soon as I'm done this, I'm going to start digging, and I've already been digging. And it's not going to be very in-depth, but I'll put out a 10-15 minute video for everybody here, just with things that I've come across for this company. And what also we need to be aware of, IIPR is going to be trading on November 22nd, and this IPO is going to be either the 28th or the 30th. You need to have settled cash in your account to be able to play this. I called Fidelity. You can trade this Canadian IPO in Fidelity. There's a lot of brokers you can't. This is another reason why I really like Fidelity, and I've stuck with them for 6 years. So you have to call them. I got my account approved for foreign exchanges. And if your cash is not settled, if you're trading IIPR and your cash does not settle in time, we have Thanksgiving holiday to think about. business days. We need to count the number of business days. It's going to be cutting it close, especially if the IPO is the 28th. So we need to be aware of that. And some of the details with, if you do have Fidelity, just because I called them, I've got all this information and forgot to put it on a slide here, but here it is. So you can purchase this IPO through Fidelity when it is live. There should be an OTC version that you can buy without being approved for foreign markets, but it might not open right away, and there might be some lag time on that. The commission is 19 Canadian dollars, which ends up being pretty expensive for the US, but again, it is worth it to be able to trade this IPO. And there is also a 1% fee for converting into Canadian. So if say I play with $20,000, I spend $200 right out of the gate for that conversion to play the foreign market. So you can't do stop losses either. It's only limit or market orders. So you need to be aware of that. Have your finger on a trigger and a stop loss or a sell order filled out. If you are looking to exit that position, must be cash. You cannot play with margin. And you need to have your account coded for international trading and approved. They just read a disclaimer to you over the phone and you say, okay, and you click some buttons on your account and then you're good to go. And I did all that today. You can call them here, Fidelity. And again, there's a lot of other brokers that aren't going to let you do this and aren't going to let you play this IPO in the US. So tomorrow we'll be doing that coverage of the NYSE IPO. Very curious to see how it goes. I hope it goes up, obviously. We'll be covering it live in the chat room, live on webcam, and then I'm going to be focusing after that IPO settles down right here on EMC, as I'm admittedly a lot more excited for this. I was extremely enthused for the IIPR, but the Sessions Attorney General potential and just the comparison of the Canadian market to the stars are aligning right now for EMC in this upcoming IPO. With everything that's occurred in the sector, they could not have picked a better time for this IPO. So those are my thoughts. We'll see how it all plays out. Certainly very exciting. And there's going to be no slowdown for excitement in these sectors over the next 5 years. Looking forward to it. And again, I'll put that informational video research on EMC out some point later this week. And feel free to ask me any questions. Can't imagine there's many that I haven't answered in this ramble video. And I'll see you soon.